It's the time of day when we're starting to think about our Friday night dinner, are we not? And in recent weeks, looking for recipes to help you cook something tasty for your family, we have consulted the likes of Monica Galetti, Ken Hom, Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, Anna Jones last week. Today, it's the turn of the legendary Raymond Blanc. Raymond is arguably the greatest and most important chef working in Britain today.
Well, you're very generous, man.
There he is, and I'm not even going to read my intro. I feel silly because I want to start speaking to Raymond, but he has gongs coming out of his ears, don't you, Raymond? Michelin stars, OBEs. He gave early jobs to the likes of Heston Blumenthal, who's coming on the show next week, but didn't last long with Raymond. Actually, Raymond also was an early boss of Marco Pierre White, who begat Gordon Ramsay, who begat we all know what he begat. Most importantly for me, it was a meal at his restaurant, Le Manoir aux Quatre Saisons, where my parents took me one night when I was at university, I think 1990, 1991, which wasn't far away, and that really was the first great meal I ever had and really got me into good food. I remember the asparagus tips and morels. I remember the truffle scrambled eggs served in the shell, very 90s. The langoustines. He's also the loveliest chef of all of them, with the most infectious smile. He's the one that nobody has a bad word to say about. Just looking at his new book, Simply Raymond, Recipes from Home, with his beautiful smiling face, just makes me happy, even if it wasn't full of wonderful recipes. And that I discovered from reading the preface that we nearly lost him. Raymond, you were in hospital for a month with COVID.
Yes, it was actually a very severe COVID. I was very much run down with a very low immune system, and I got it really bad. And I was transferred with an ambulance, to Oxford Hospital, John Ratcliffe, into the high dependency unit, and that means you were in big trouble. Okay, and it was a pretty tough month there. And obviously, I would take this opportunity to thank all the hospital staff, the consultants, the nurses. Everyone was so extraordinary. You know, when we talk about excellence in a restaurant, okay, would love to talk about excellence in the service, hospitality service, the hospital service that they provided. These girls who work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, don't see their parents for 6 months. It's unbelievable. And they look after me and help me on my journey to recovery. And you never knew what would happen. So it was really a tough time. But you always learn things out of it, you know? Now, I'm going to manage my life a little bit better. Don't try to do 15 things when I could do only 10 at the same time. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm aiming. Hello?
Hello. Oh, the line was disappearing just at the end. We nearly lost you to COVID. We must not lose you to telecommunications. And one of the things I was fascinated to read at the beginning of the book, which we'll talk about at length, is when you're in hospital, you say you quite enjoyed the food.
Well, I was probably polite as well. And also, as a craftsman, I understand the efforts it takes to cook for 80 guests. Those guys are cooking for 25,000 people with low budgets, with huge pressure. And I think it was amazing. The food came hot. The food came on time. Yes, sure, there were some dishes which were a bit, especially when I kept my taste. I kept my taste completely. Thank God, and I mean, thank God. My taste, my scent, everything was there, which was sometimes a bit of a problem when I tasted the food in the hospital, when you have all your senses of smell and taste, but. Effectively, at the end of the day, all what I was thinking is to get better, to get out through this terrible ordeal where you lost about 30% of your waist, you cannot walk, you breathe from the top of your lungs. So I knew the food is about nutrients, it's about survival, it's about carbohydrates, calories, and that's what will make you better. And actually, the food, I wouldn't say I started to enjoy it, but come on, especially you, Con. I would have loved to see you and Giles. I would have you in that situation. I bet you would be even more picky than me.
Oh, I don't think I'd be too picky. I tell you what, if I was in the next bed and they were serving me hospital food and I knew that Raymond Blanc was down the ward, I would be saying, I don't care how ill he is, get him up, get him in the kitchen. He can cook my lunch, surely.
God, you're a mean person. I can't believe it.
But Raymond, you're now listen. You survived COVID, and it's wonderful. And I can see you on the screen, which is rare. But we seem to have got the technology working, and you look to me very well, which I'm delighted to hear. Although you survived, you lost your dear mother, Maman Blanc, didn't you? That must have been terrible.
Yes, it was. She's a woman, and I'm not a mother's boy, but she's woman basically uh, set up the whole foundation of my approach to food, i.e., food from the garden, the varietals, seasonality, the act of giving, the act of providing your family or my guests with the best welcome, the best hospitality, the best experience. And all of these values she gave me about provenance. The first thing she told me, Raymond, you shall waste not. And she was a post-war girl lady, okay, coming from a farming background, so she knew about her food. Oh my God, she knew. Grammarly? I don't know what's going on here.
Is that your phone ring? That's very jolly.
Yes, no, it's not one. It's not as mad as that. But basically, she gave me all of these values, which are crucial, fundamental, about authenticity, about provenance, about purity, nobility of the food, about the craft, and simplicity. My mom, and this book is all about simplicity. My mom would never use, for example, water. No, she would never use stock. She would use water to extract the magic of each vegetable, meat, or fish. Yes, I had a huge admiration for her, for all what she gave me, and the joy she gave to so many people. Yeah, she was absolutely amazing. My son's actually called her Mother Teresa on speed. So that little woman, no bigger than 1 meter 50, okay, or 30, and she kept smaller every year, but her heart kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. She knew how to give. She was a giver, provider, and it's marvelous to see these people where basically there was so much love in her heart and so much knowledge, because she couldn't go to school, so she was working in her father's farm. Okay, so if you the knowledge she has about everything. For example, when I was in the garden was half of the size of Le Manoir that saison. Okay, it was a big garden. It had to feed a family of 7. Okay, and when she get me some potatoes, it was never get me some potatoes. So get me grenaille. Okay, and I knew it was rissoles potatoes on the menu. Then, or she would tell me binges, and I knew it was a puree potato. Or she would tell me Maris Pieper, yes, she would call them, and I knew it was French fries day, a very special day. The French fries would accompany a steak, which I will give you a little recipe later, actually, because it teaches you that simplicity, that miracle, that magic of simplicity for home cooking.
Well,
Yeah. So
I look forward to that recipe very much, and as well as your wonderful mother, and there's beautiful photos in this gorgeous book, and I have all your books, and I look forward to cooking from this. She's not the only inspiration, is there? There's someone else, Edouard de Pomiane, who I know nothing about. Tell me about him and his role in the book.
Oh, this man is amazing, and I discovered him. He's about twice as old as I am, maybe a bit more. Okay, that means he would be now about 150 years of age. Okay, he was a professor, okay, in microbiology, okay, in the Sorbonne. Okay, so he's a Frenchman. He had droopy mustache. He had such a characteristic, beautiful head, okay, with his white bald and his white head like an old professor, okay, twinkly eyes. He was a naughty boy, always, he had a great sense of himself, of self-important, but he has extraordinary wits. And what I loved about this man, when I read his book, I fell completely in love with the personage, with the meaning of his messages as well. His amazing writing, so romantic, so delicate, so real as well. It was not sentimental. And it touched my heart completely, and he became my hero. Okay, and this man, way back in 1930s, 50s, basically, wrote a book which has become my favorite book from anyone, even mine, called Cooking in 10 Minutes. Imagine to write a book in 1930 when the French were fed with a chaperon full of truffle and gold, and they were. Yet he already saw that society was changing, and that people's habits were changing, and people didn't have the time to eat as they should, i.e., a 3 hours meal.
We think of you think of cooking in 10 minutes. I thought that we all thought that Jamie Oliver invented that, don't
Yeah,
we?
well, I wrestled a lot. Okay, I wrestled a lot because he did 30 minutes, he did 20 minutes, and it seems that I would compete with Jamie, and I love Jamie very, very much. I think he's a fantastic man, okay, in what he has done for this country. So I didn't like the idea of competing, but I love the man so much that I was very, very keen to write a book, Cooking in 10 Minutes, and from my hero, Edward Pomiane. Okay, and I started writing this book in 10 minutes, but the pandemic arrived, and suddenly the lifestyle of people changed completely. No, from a fast, quicker, quicker, quicker. Now, I want now. Suddenly, the whole, through the pandemic, the nation slowed down and start to take stock, to spend more time with their family, to start reconnecting with the garden, with cooking, with a much more gentle pace to life. And suddenly my book suddenly was didn't fit with the time of hardship, and a time where suddenly we were with our families locked down, so to speak. So, and I knew this pandemic will change dramatically and for a long time, okay, the way we live, what we eat, the knowledge. Ignorance, I believe, is going to be replaced by knowledge, and knowledge is empowering. So I think it's really exciting what's happening at the moment, and that pandemic was not just bad thing. I think from it we can learn many great lessons. And I started to write a book, basically, which is still brings that idea of simplicity, but we didn't have to hurry, like we would have hurried even 2 years ago for the last 50 years. And
Yeah.
especially England. The French still took a bit more time, okay, to have their meal, whereas in England it was a sandwich on the run, a few fish and chips were quickly eaten. It was all about speed. And I wanted to bring that book, basically, I couldn't do it 10 minutes, because effectively cooking 10 minutes would be embracing the all British values, and whereas now I think we are going to change. We are going to take a bit more time. We're going to think a bit more of our families and our work ethics. And I think globalization will also change, I really believe. We want to reinvent as well our own craft, our own agriculture, the lost skills that we had in this country. And it's really exciting. For me, there's a big change which is going to happen, especially in the food we eat. So I wanted to write a little book which is, of course, delightful, which is unfussy. You don't need 20 chefs around you to make a meal. Okay, it's a book. It's not a coffee table book. It's a book which is meant for your kitchen, full of greasy pages. Okay, which have been turned and turned again. And this is a book which is really, I hope, many of the recipes will be part of your repertoire, and with which you will share this special moment with your guests. Because after all, the table is the very heart of this house.
It,
Okay,
it
not
is, and I love the idea that lockdown, as we slow down and take more time and thinking
yeah.
and about food, but basically the pandemic, the world is going to come back much more as a Raymond Blanc sort of a world, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's a bit too much. Maybe I don't think so. I'm a game changer as such.
You are a game
But,
changer, Raymond.
but
What is just because one of the things I must do is get a recipe from you. What do you think? Have you got? Is there something in there that I could recommend that my listeners who know a bit about food but may not be as highly skilled as you, that they could cook for their Friday night dinner? Have you got a recipe?
well, folks, I thought this book is full. Every dish, when I talk about simple, it's about no more than, let's say, a 3-4 step dish. Okay, it's no more than 6 or 8 ingredients at the most. Okay, there's no stock employed. My mom always used water. Okay, and through the technique of pan frying, poaching, roasting, slow cooking, you can have only 10 minutes of work and let the slow cooking or the pan frying do its work, and you can create a recipe very quickly indeed, and something really delicious. So I thought of two recipes. One is a quick ratatouille, okay, which is doesn't stew. It's not stewed for us. It's flash fried almost. No, you soften yours and you sweeten your white onions, not the Brittany onions or the rosé onion. The white onion is sweet and gorgeous and softened much faster and gives much more flavor. So you sweeten it in the best olive oil. Don't use extra virgin olive oil, please, because that's a waste of money. Use your extra virgin olive oil for your salads, etc., etc. So, because you bring the temperature at 140 degrees, and the olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, breaks down at 130, 140. Okay, so sweeten your onions, add the garlic. Be careful, the garlic has got a high glycemic index. That means it will color very fast. So you sweeten your onion first, then add the sliced onion, the sliced garlic, then bring all your vegetables together. The aubergine diced, okay, big chunky, no diced, no messing around, chunky diced, pepper, courgettes, then a bit more olive oil, all the tomatoes. If you don't have tomato, use passata tomato, okay, or tin tomatoes. It will be all right. It will still be delicious. Put as many herbs as you can, rosemary, thyme, sage, whatever you have under your hand, okay, and a bit more olive oil, and let it fast cooking, okay, fast cooking to start, medium cooking. It will take 10 minutes to cook. And then to that, imagine that dish can provide thousands of dishes according which spice, whether it is curry, whether it is cumin, caraway, whether it is different herbs. Yes, so many. And then you can also pan fry quick fish on it, whether it is pollock, cod, whatever, a little bit of a rouget, and you put it on the top of it. Simple, really simple dish, which offers so many fantastic varieties. So if pals are going to meet tonight and they want more time to drink and to talk to each other, that is a perfect dish. And it's tasty and it is absolutely delicious. Yeah. And that will take you only 20 minutes from start to finish.
It looks absolutely beautiful. I'm looking at it in the recipe. It looks delicious. Raymond, I have one more minute left with you before I have to go to the news.
Steak Raymond Blanc.
Okay, go on then.
We were working class people and would eat meat, okay, steak, beef, only once a week. Okay, and she would take either the bavette or sometime when she felt rich, sirloin, pan fried for 3 minutes in foaming butter. Very important. Let the butter form. When it stops forming, that when it has reached the right temperature, it will brown your meat beautifully. You season it, of course, with proper pepper, proper salt. Okay, and you pan fry it 2 minutes on each side for medium rare, and you just deglaze with water, and the butter will form and spit and create an amazing emulsion, which will provide a 3-star Michelin home cooking and flavor. And on the side, of course, a few pan-fried potatoes, a few beans, spinach, etc. Easy. And
easy. Thank you, Raymond. My mouth is watering. I'm going to cook it tonight. That was absolutely wonderful. Raymond Blanc, the greatest living chef, as I said before. What a joy to hear you. His book, Simply Raymond, Recipes from Home, is out now, and it's an absolute joy. I am going to be cooking from it tonight. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad you survived. My condolences over dear Maman Blanc. I can't wait to see you in the flesh, perhaps at Le Manoir.